Welcome back to the third episode of the Holy Bible.
Were there no graves in Egypt that you brought us out here to die? Some shouted bitterly at Moses, but Moses stood firm, his face calm with faith. "Do not be afraid," he called out. "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. The Egyptians you see today you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." The pillar of cloud that had led us now moved behind the Israelites, coming between our camp and the Egyptians. On the Egyptian side it cast darkness, confounding their advance, while on the Israelite side it shone gently, lighting our way. Then God told Moses to stretch out his staff over the sea. I watched in awe as Moses lifted his rod toward the waters. All through the night the Lord drove back the sea with a powerful east wind. The waters trembled and parted, piling up into towering walls on our left and right. Where there had been deep sea, now there lay a dry path stretching to the distant shore. Moses turned to the people and raised his arm, and the Israelites stepped onto the seabed path. Seizing their chance, Pharaoh's chariots thundered into the sea passage in pursuit. Whips cracked and wheels rattled over the sea floor as the Egyptians charged between the walls of water. In the gray before dawn, as the Egyptians raced through the heart of the sea, I saw confusion suddenly strike their ranks. Wheels began to swerve and jam. Some chariots lost wheels entirely, axles scraping the ground. "Let us flee from Israel," shouted one of Pharaoh's captains. "The Lord is fighting for them against us." Panic seized the Egyptians. Upon the far shore, Moses climbed a promontory overlooking the sea, his staff still in hand. At God's command, he stretched out his hand over the sea once more. A great and terrible roar arose as the walls of water collapsed. The sea rushed back into its place, crashing down upon the trapped chariots and soldiers. Chariots flipped, horses screamed, and men were swept away in the foaming wrath of the waters. Not one of Pharaoh's soldiers survived that torrent. When the morning sun rose, it shone on a calm sea. Broken chariots and lifeless bodies washed up on the shore, all that remained of Egypt's pride. In a single night, the Lord had shattered the might of Pharaoh. On the eastern shore, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then joy broke out among the people. Moses' sister Miriam took up a tambourine and led the women in a dance, singing, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and its rider he has thrown into the sea." Men, women, and children joined the chorus, laughter and tears mingling on their faces. I felt the angel beside me lift his hands to heaven in praise. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had delivered his people with signs and wonders. The story of this day would be told for generations. They traveled into the wilderness toward Mount Sinai, and though they struggled with thirst and hunger, God miraculously provided water from the rock and bread from heaven. Still, the people's faith often wavered whenever they faced hardship. After 3 months, we arrived at Mount Sinai, a vast mountain rising starkly from the desert. Moses told the people to consecrate themselves, for the Lord was going to descend upon the mountain. On the third day, as morning dawned, thunder boomed and lightning flashed atop Sinai. A thick cloud enveloped the peak, and a piercing trumpet blast rang out from heaven, growing louder and louder. The Israelites in the camp shook with fear at the intensity. Moses led them to the foot of the mountain, and I saw smoke billowing from the summit as if from a furnace, for the Lord had descended upon it in fire. The whole mountain quaked violently. It was a fearsome and glorious sight. The angel next to me glowed brighter as the presence of God drew near. Then God spoke from the midst of the fire, and his voice was like thunder. He declared his covenant commandments, teaching his people how to live in holiness and love. I heard the words echoing over the plain. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Honor your father and your mother. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not covet. Each commandment struck like a drumbeat in the heart of the nation. The people stood at a distance, trembling with awe, and pleaded with Moses, "Speak to us yourself, and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us directly, or we will die." Moses reassured them that God's mighty display was to instill reverence so they would not sin. Moses then went up into the cloud of glory on the mountain to receive more of God's law written on stone tablets. He remained on the summit 40 days and nights. Yet even after experiencing all these wonders, the people's faith faltered. While Moses tarried on the mountain, the Israelites grew impatient and pressured Aaron to make an idol. Aaron collected their gold earrings and melted them down, casting a statue of a golden calf. The people reveled before the idol, proclaiming, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt." On the mountaintop, God informed Moses of their corruption and burning apostasy, threatening to destroy them. Moses pleaded desperately for mercy on their behalf. When Moses descended and saw the people dancing before the calf, his righteous anger blazed. He smashed the stone tablets of the law upon the ground and destroyed the golden calf, grinding it to powder and scattering it on the water. Though God punished the evildoers in his mercy, he did not destroy Israel completely. He listened to Moses' intercession and spared them. Moses later returned to Sinai and received a new set of tablets, renewing the covenant. The Israelites continued their journey under God's care. For 40 years they wandered in the wilderness due to their unbelief, yet throughout those years God provided manna from heaven, water from rocks, and guidance by the pillar of cloud and fire. God's presence remained with them even in their stubbornness until the doubting generation passed and a new generation arose. Finally, under Joshua's leadership after Moses, the people of Israel crossed the Jordan River and entered the land God promised to Abraham, a land flowing with milk and honey. With God's help, they fought and won many battles. The fortified walls of Jericho fell at the sound of trumpets and a shout. Israel inherited the land sworn to their fathers and settled there, enjoying its goodness. But the human heart remained prone to stray. In the generations that followed, the Israelites repeatedly turned away from God to worship idols. Enemies oppressed them until God raised up judges to deliver them. They eventually asked for a king to rule over them like the other nations. God granted their desire, first Saul, who fell into disobedience, and then David, a shepherd boy who became a man after God's own heart. Under King David, the 12 tribes were united and the nation prospered. God made a covenant with David that one of his descendants would reign forever, a king whose kingdom would never end. David's son Solomon built a magnificent temple in Jerusalem, and the glory of the Lord filled it like a cloud. Yet even during Solomon's golden age, seeds of idolatry began to take root. After Solomon, the kingdom split in two and declined into further unfaithfulness. Through all their waywardness, God sent prophets who foretold a coming Messiah, a righteous king from David's line, a savior who would establish a new.
Watch out for the fourth episode.